Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast, where we celebrate individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Our friends at Rock Creek Coffee Roasters sponsor the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Rock Creek Coffee is the home of small batch, freshly roasted coffee. Our guest today on the Outdoor Adventure Series is Wade Kisner, owner of Sweet Point Setters and host of the Setter Tales podcast. Wade learned quail hunting in West Central Missouri and found a love for gun dogs. A career in law enforcement led him to Iowa, where pheasant hunting was huge, and since retiring, he jumped deep into upland bird hunting and educating a new generation of bird hunters through guiding, producing video series and podcasting, and really just making this passion accessible for anyone. So Wade, it's a pleasure to have you on the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having us on. We appreciate it.
Fantastic. And for our listeners, Wade and I are both on video, and you're going to see this when we publish our Get to Know Wade segment, but he's got his logo behind him, and it's literally a setter dog with a microphone on his head or a headset on his head talking into a microphone. I'm thinking, I like that a lot.
Yeah, we've had a lot of comments about that it kind of just speaks to what we're doing. When you say a Setter Tales podcast, you expect to actually, there's a story behind that. We can get into that when we get to the podcast kind of part of my hunting career, and we can go into that a little deeper. But that dog is actually one of our dogs that started this whole journey, which was a dog called Sweet Lou, and we'll talk a little bit about him.
I love that. Cannot wait. So Wade, for our listeners, if you could you provide a kind of a broad stroke, 30,000 foot view of your background? And in my intro, you were raised in Central Missouri, but tell us a little bit about that story and how you got to love this sport of hunting and love for these dogs.
Well, yeah, it's having grown up in a small town, Freeman, Missouri, and probably no one has ever heard of it, but it's just a very small town of 400 people, and about a half hour south of Kansas City, Missouri. So we were close enough for the big city, but it was really a rural kind of a setting. But it was interesting because my granddad was a farmer, and even though we lived in a town of 400 people, he considered us to be townies and and not real country folk. But we spent, growing up, my brother and I spent a lot of time on that farm of his, and he was a quail hunter, and he had a bird dog, farm dog, kind of all-purpose dog like a lot of the guys did back then. And that's really where my brother and I learned to quail hunt for the first time. It was, somebody asked me this the other day, and I'd have to say I was 10 or 11 probably when I first started. I don't know if I was carrying a gun then, but I was going in the field and I was carrying birds, and I was just kind of learning, as every young person has to, the etiquette of it and just how you hunt with dogs. And so from that kind of background, and then my dad hunted quite a bit, had a bird dog. And so from early beginnings, we just were around dogs all the time. And that was just kind of part of our lifestyle. And since Granddad had his own property back then, access to a hunting area was just, we never even thought about that like a lot of people have to today. But that's where it started. And I continued that interest. In fact, every opening day of quail season that I remember back in those days, the men of the Kisner family all met and gathered at Granddad's farm for an opening day hunt. We did that for years. It was just kind of, it was like Thanksgiving or Christmas. It was, you didn't miss opening day. And that was like a big thing. And so from that, it just was kind of bred and into me that upland bird hunting was something special. And as I got older, I realized, to me, the special part of it was watching the bird dogs and watching the dogs do their work. The harvest of the birds was really, to me, became a bonus and a reward for the dog's hard work that he got to, as they say, put his mouth on feathers and retrieve that bird to hand. But yeah, that's kind of how it started. So, and I have to say that until I moved to Iowa 46 years ago, I'd never seen a pheasant. I mean, we were quail hunting guys, and a career in law enforcement that I started in 1977 led me to Iowa, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. Now, it's a fascinating story. And what I love about what you shared, and I hear this a lot from outdoor enthusiasts like yourself now, that whether this is hunting with bird dogs or hunting other animals or even fishing for that matter, is going out with their grandparents and the granddad, the brothers, cousins, and just really enjoying being out there with the camaraderie and enjoying the land, and the added bonus with your dogs. But then you actually get to consume what you catch, which I love that.
That's right. And my dad always liked to, when we dressed and cleaned our quail, he always liked to have it for breakfast. I still remember this to this day. Quail, pan fried, old iron skillet with some eggs, and there wasn't anything better than that breakfast. And we always had that after opening day when we would bring our quail home. And so I do miss quail hunting. We don't see a lot of quail in where I live now in Iowa, unfortunately, but every chance I get to get back down into Missouri or Kansas and try it out again, I jump at that chance. What I have found is I sometimes forget how fast they are, and how my reaction time has slowed a little bit over the years. But it will always be fun, no matter how old I get, to step into that flush of those birds. And once you experience that, you just have to do it again.
So we've mentioned dogs. You had a hunting dog growing up, but it's not lost on me that you are the owner of Sweet Point Setters and you host the Setter Tales podcast. So tell us about the dogs and why are they so important? And especially, what makes a setter such a great dog for upland bird hunting?
Wow. Yeah, where do you start with that one? But yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of great upland dogs, and I've hunted with probably every breed, and I really wasn't a setter guy until about 15 years ago, 14 and a half years ago it was. But yeah, there was a particular dog, a setter, that a lot of people in this area have heard about. He's kind of legendary, but his name was Sweet Lou. And unfortunately, I lost Sweet Lou this fall at the age of 14 and a half.
Oh, wow.
But his story and kind of what started this all for us was that I was getting ready to retire from a law enforcement career. And it was a career, I was involved in a homicide unit, so I was subject to call out 24 hours a day. And so I didn't know when my weekends would be mine. I didn't know when holidays would be mine. And I had 3 boys that my wife and I were raising, and they were involved in all kinds of activities like most of the young kids are these days. And so my bird hunting kind of had taken a little bit had kind of been put on the shelf a little bit. But I was about a year to 9 months away from retiring. And one day the doorbell rang, and my wife yelled at me, and she said, Ray is here to see you. And she said, there must be something wrong. He says that you have to come out to the truck. And Ray is a friend of mine. I've known Ray for years, and Ray was a big setter guy, and I'd hunted with him before. But at the time I had Labrador retrievers, and I hunted my lab once in a while, but she basically was a family dog, and that helped me raise three boys. And there's nothing better than a lab to try to take the brunt of three boys that are romping and playing and roughhousing with. But so basically that's what she did 95% of the time. And then maybe a couple times a year, I would take her upland bird hunting, and bless her heart, she gave a great effort. And, but back in those days, I didn't have time to put a training into a dog or anything else. And so she never really reached probably the potential that she could have. So fast forward to me retiring, and then Ray shows up, and I go out to his truck, and in the driveway, he has these two 10-week-old English setter puppies. Cute as hell. I mean, there's nothing cuter. All puppies are cute, but English setter puppies, all speckled and getting their ticking, what we call ticking, which are the little spots that are coming out all over their bodies. Yeah, they were just cute as hell. And I'm just thinking he's showing off his dogs. Man, and I'm looking forward to maybe someday I'll get to hunt over these two neat setters that he's got in the truck. And he tells me, he says, well, that female is mine, but that male is yours. And now I knew nothing about this, didn't even know he had a litter of puppies. And I said, well, boy, I'm really not looking for a puppy right now. I don't have time. Everything is going through my head of why I don't need a puppy in my life at that time. But he's telling me, nobody wants this dog. He's the last one in the litter. Nobody would take him. We don't know what we'll do with him. Just suggesting to me that I'm probably the last resort for this dog. Now, whether I would have been or not, I don't know. But Ray sold me that if I didn't take this dog, then he didn't know what would happen to him, and whether he would be euthanized or what, I don't know. But so anyway, I wasn't about to let anything happen to this guy, and so the next thing I know, Ray throws a bag of dog food in my yard, and he heads up the street, and I'm holding this puppy, kind of thinking, what the hell just happened? And about the time my wife made eye contact with me from the door, saying, what the hell have you done? And so that's how Sweet Lou came into my life. And so Sweet Lou, an unwanted dog, nobody wanted him, found me. I didn't find him. But the journey that guy set me on from that day is one that has led us to where we are today and what we're talking about. When somebody gives you a free gun dog, your expectations probably aren't real high. But as it turns out, this guy had some skill, and the older he got, the more he showed me and some of the things he was doing with his abilities to find scent when we would use feathers to help him locate birds. He definitely had a great nose, and he would lock up on a pheasant in the yard or in a feather in the yard, and he would just stand there until I got tired. I'd say, okay, that's enough. So anyway, I knew this guy had some talent, and it kind of became my future. I really thought that if this guy has this kind of potential, then it's up to me. I have to be the one that gets him to the level where he deserves to be, because there are a lot of great gun dogs out there, all different breeds, English setters and others. But if there's not somebody that has that dog that is training them, learning all about their behavioral thing to take them, they got that God-given DNA, but somebody's got it's like an athlete born into a family, they got all the skills, the physical skills, but somebody, a coach, a mentor, has to take that athlete and really take them to the level where they can be. And that's what I did with Lou, essentially, is I just started training him. I immersed myself into all kinds of training books. I leaned on a lot of professional trainers that I knew in the area and just asked lots of questions. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? And one thing led to another, and he became really good. And that kind of got me into the guiding thing. He became the first English setter in Iowa back in 2013 to get a master hunt title, AKC title. No other English setter had ever done that in Iowa. And so from there on, it just became more about seeing what else he could do, and then carrying on his line, if you will, which is what we did.